their teacher in school wouldn't let them say recap. They made them say the full word, which was recapitulation, I think.
It's recapitulate.
That's what I meant, recapitulate. Recapitulate is what it is?
Yeah.
Cool. It's a Jackson Hole recapitulation. Wait, is lation in there or no?
You can't.
There's no ION.
That's a derivative. Recapitulate is the base.
Listeners, you are learning something new today along with Riley. I was the teacher, so just wanted her to become a little bit more educated. We are doing a Jackson Hole summer visit recapitulation, aka recap.
Something that I have received a lot of criticism for on the podcast is my lack of vocabulary prowess. Thank you, Quinn, for coming in and straightening me out. I needed that.
I know. It's the best when people do get us confused whose voice is whose, and they're like, Quinn, you say really great vocabulary words. And I'm like, that was me. I'm like, oh, a word you've never heard before? Yes, totally said from my mouth. I know. I wish my twin could keep up, but it's a lot.
It's okay. Quinn's had a lifetime of dumbing it down for me, which is actually the case when it comes to our horse girl stuff. I'm like, Quinn, tell it to me in the simplest terms possible because I want to get this right and I want to treat my learning like I am a fresh baby and start. It's like Quinn's starting a cult instead of doing a rework. I'm like, I'd rather start with the best foot forward than learn bad habits and have to unpractice those. Untrain.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's like I remember when one of our friends was teaching us how to swing dance, and he's like, I hate teaching dancers how to swing dance because they already have all these preconceived things and way of holding themselves in their body, and I'm like, just loosen up and let me teach you. And we're like, let's dance.
Which I would love to get more into swing dancing. Unfortunately, my partner that I would go with doesn't have a bunch of free time on his hands for that sort of shenanigans, which lame. I like having
Doctors
free time
love to
on
make
our
excuses
hands.
like that. Doctors, like people in grad school, people in a doctorate program, and in a medical residency, they love to make so many excuses about being busy, you know what I mean?
Oh, you had to work 80 hours this week. I don't have time to go to the saloon.
Yeah, it's like if you wanted to, you would.
Quinn, let's get into our meat and potatoes because we just had such a wonderful trip. It was truly a quintessential Tetons summer vibe, which was so nice and refreshing and necessary to just get back into the homelands, put our toes in the soil. And it was also a super cool opportunity to see a year of growth from the Honey Bunny baby boy, because we brought him with us on our last trip.
Bunny, my puppy, for clarification, who's now a year and a half years old.
Yeah, and he was but a little tyke when we were there last summer, and very puppy-like, needing lots of supervision. And this time we brought Pinkerton and Bunny. So that was extra fun to see Pink in the environment, to bring Bunny with us, and they did great, all in all, in summary.
Yeah, I think they did really great. We stay at my parents' house. We are lucky enough to have parents that are still in the home that we were raised in Jackson, Wyoming. It's pretty special and we do not take that for granted. So we were so excited to get another summer visit like we did last year. We have had years where we have had to skip, which has been it's very hard to have grown up in such a beautiful place and just have the
Very
reality
hard.
check. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying and have the reality check of, this is not something like you don't just get access whenever you want access. And so many people that grew up with us and went to high school with us, like their parents pretty quickly after they graduated sold their home and moved elsewhere because, living in Jackson, Wyoming is to say not cheap would be a gross under exaggeration. It is one of the most expensive counties in the United States to live, so I can completely understand why so many families have had to relocate out of Jackson, and we are very fortunate that our parents have deep enough roots and have been able to stay, and they just are committed. They love that place so much. We couldn't rip them out of there. Their hands are just, they're clamped old fingers around the roots of their aspen trees in the yard. We can't have
Careful.
babies somewhere else enough to be enough temptation. Like, if we had a baby tomorrow, they would be like, move closer to us. I know so many people right now in my life that are like, oh yeah, I had, having my kids, so my parents are going to move to be just an hour away. I'm like, or even 20 minutes, 5 minutes away. I'm like, wow, that is nice. I'm very grateful to have my parents staying in Jackson for us to visit. And it would be amazing if there was the best of both worlds and they lived a few doors down and in Jackson, but that's not happening.
Yeah, the problem is we will not be moving back unless some miracle is bestowed upon us. So it is extra special to get to visit. And my mom, as you all know, is a gardener, but she has really put some extra love and work into the garden the past couple of summers. It's a pretty rugged growing season and growing environment there, so you don't necessarily just get to pick out whatever seeds that you want from the gardening store, put them in the ground and watch them thrive. But she has set her mind to growing some different things that maybe aren't the easiest in that season, but we got to see peonies right at the end of their bloom cycle. Her little Johnny jump ups, which are like tiny little pansies, are so tall. I've never seen them so tall. They usually just kind of hang out closer to the ground. They are just reaching for the sky, which made me so happy to see. And lots of birds. We got to watch the birds at the feeders and flitting around. They love all the trees in the garden that they have cultivated, so that was awesome. Pinkerton found the one squirrel in the premises and treat it, and my mom was like, oh my gosh, don't let her get that squirrel. That's the
My
one
one
squirrel
squirrel.
that's my one squirrel that comes to the yard, which I love. I'm like, okay, ally of the squirrels. Most places people are like, oh my gosh, can we get these squirrels out of my grill and out of my bird feeder? And I also felt that the squirrel's not in great risk of Pinkerton catching it. That would be the first time out of many tries for her.
Yeah, but she will continue to try. She did amazing though she has really in the past couple of years, and now her being 5, she has really turned such a corner in her abilities and her training. We called her off of the squirrel as she was chasing it, and she dead stopped, turns around, and runs back to us. Like, her recall has become so stellar, which is awesome. Um, but squirrels they are cool. It amazes me that they'll be on an aspen. Like, I watched this squirrel out of our kitchen window on an aspen. It's not even a barky tree, and they'll be face down, tail up, just looking left to right, straight up vertical. I'm like, that is amazing to me.
Also, how they go out onto the very end of the skinny branch and like leap off of it as it's like dipping down into.
Yeah. But we saw
wild.
a ton of. I'm like, first amazing wildlife encounter, squirrel. Second, Riley and I saw, I don't know if 5 bald eagles while we were there, which never ceases to amaze me. And we got several up close. Like, they were very near, not like, oh, look in the distance. They were very close to us over the river and things, which was amazing.
I love it when the dogs notice a bird. Bunny saw one of them and was like looking up in the sky at it.
Bunny is one of those dogs that has such the little tilty, curious head that works back and forth when he's trying to figure something out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, and they had their first real swimming experience. It was so cute. Something that is so fun about being around kids and animals is watching them learn and experience things for the first time. And Bunny was so tentative, reaching out his little paw into the water and doing like one little doggy paddle splash to feel if his foot would be able to reach. They did need a little boost for their first swim, but Pinkerton, once she got in, just no problem. Natural swimmer, zoomed right across Bunny on the other hand. It was a little more trial and error.
Bunny was striking feet out of water and starting to go higher and higher with his feet instead of working with the water. But just where I live, it's not that there's nowhere I could take them to water, but it's not convenient, and clearly they just spend a ton of time on the homestead. But we did 4 days in a row in the water, and they grew in confidence very much. I would not say that either of them left being full-blown water dogs that are going to be trying to seek that out and jump in. But they gained a lot of confidence, and they loved being in it to where it's just, leg deep, maybe even belly. They love when they can stand. But yeah, Pinkerton was quite the bullet in the water. She had no problems other than being tentative.
Yeah. It was really fun, and the water just felt so good to be in. It was as hot as I've ever felt it in Jackson, as we all are experiencing, unfortunately, some crazy heat that is not normal for most places. As I sit right now in my home where it is 90 degrees on the inside, and I have my fan turned off for the podcasting purposes, I am really just embracing the sauna fantasy in my household. But to get in the cool water, it was so delightful. I don't know how cold the water actually was, but often when you're in the Tetons, it's like, wow, whoo, that's pretty cold. But it felt like no problem to get into this trip. It was a delight, just what I needed. It's a little crystal cool water, especially can be extra grateful for it after being on the East Coast, where it's nice sometimes that the water isn't shockingly cold, but also when they're having really hot days and then you get in the water, I'm like, not much of a respite.
Oh, yeah, no, it's so refreshing, that mountain water. It feels so good. And I know plenty of people that are like, the ocean is my calling. And hey, I love the ocean. I am an ocean girl Don't get me wrong, I love water in general, but I am equally as much a sucker for a river or a lake in Jackson, Wyoming, as I am to an ocean elsewhere. That we have such beautiful, beautiful crystal mountain water, and it feels so good. And yeah, if I could put that running through my property, that would be amazing to brainstorming for my future property. Obviously, plenty of pasture space for the equine. Some trees would be incredible. Snake River access would be incredible. And the house can be a little ramshackle little farmhouse like we have right now, and I would be happy living in this type of situation forever.
One of my favorite parts of our trip to Jackson was getting to do a trail ride with Haley Fitzgerald, friend of the pod. She was interviewed a little while back for the longest, toughest horse race. We can link it in our show notes if you haven't listened to hear a little bit more about her, but she was so generous to saddle up and trailer a little part of her herd over for us to have a trail ride with her and our older brother Connor. And it had been quite a while, to the tune of over a decade since Connor got on a horse. And for me, it had been by far and away the longest ride I've been on in a long while, because I don't have access to riding horses. Yeah, it was just so special that she was willing to take the time to do that for us, and she was so great about it, and just grateful for any time spent in the mountains. But to get to see our hometown from the back of an equine, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It was awesome. All of her stock is great. They were all draft crosses. Some of them have more draft in them, some of them less, but just very burly, well-dispositioned mountain horses that I was like, oh yeah, if you trying to get anyone off your hands, you just let me know. When you have such nicely trained, great mountain horses like that, it would be very hard to let them go. But they were awesome, and the trail was great, and I am glad she chose how she did for the trail, because it was a hot day and we were mostly going through trees. That felt great, but then when we got more up to the ridgeline, we had a view of the Tetons, and just a lot of fun. I would love in my life, in my future, for my family to be able to be going on trail rides together, and I would love to have enough stock to be able to provide that. That's definitely a goal for the future, and clearly I have different short-term immediate goals that require more attention, but that was lovely and so fun. I love getting to see you and Connor up on horses, and I'm like, yay, doing the thing I want to do more than anything together. That is just as good as it gets to me. We came to a fork on the trail that we could go left or right, and I'm like, I was leading the herd, and I'm like, which direction do we want to go? Leading the herd sounds crazy. I was just at the front of the string, but anyway. Left or right, and she was like, well, right will take us longer, left is a little shorter, and I'm just like, dear, right.
Yeah.
Which, for Connor and Riley's sake, not anyone, it doesn't matter if you're fit. I mean, being fit definitely helps. That's not true. It does matter. It helps a lot to be fit. But even if you're fit, riding horses for hours at a time when you're not used to that, it can do a number on the body. It feels very different than most other things that you do. So I think Riley and Connor both definitely felt it the next day.
Well, I knew I was going to be sore because any time that I ride horses and it's been a while, you get sore. It's just so different than what you're used to doing, but especially like for your knees, kind of with that setup and where I'm sitting on the saddle, get sore.
Mm.
It's like if you haven't skied for a while, you can't really expect to go and not be sore after doing something like that. But I had never been this kind of sore because it was a trail ride, so we went up, 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 then down, 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 down for hours, and so my lower back, mama, ugh, owies, I just stiff as a board. That first night, I was fine. Then in the morning, I'm like, oh wow, my lower back is sore, and then it did proceed to follow me for days where I was moving around like a frickin' plank and just Quinn would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to bend over, girl. I am in pain. It was well worth it, but oh my gosh, I don't know. I should have thought ahead and like done a ice and heat rotation. I don't know what I could have done to get out of that situation,
Could have
but
taken an Epsom salt bath.
yeah, something, not nothing, because whooey, I did feel it, and that's okay. That's, like I said, well worth it. It was so gorge out there. I think that we determined maybe we've been on that trail for a hike before in the past, but certainly not for a long time, and it's always just so fun to be home and know just how much more there is to discover and explore out there, and horses are an excellent way to do it, especially big beauties. I got to ride her horse that is literally a horse girl's fantasy buckskin, but with blonde highlights, if you will, on the top of his, like the top layer of his mane. And oh my gosh, all of her horses are really beautiful. Connor was riding who I said is like Ghost's draft cross brethren because it's another beautiful gray white horse, but it was just really special to do that. And with her little flock of dogs, they were off running around exploring by us, staying close, doing such an awesome job. It was really fun to see them all romping around and living their best doggy lives. She certainly has some happy, fulfilled animals.
Yeah. Well, and it's great because they just get to do their thing, and it helps with horse training so much to have that type of exposure to dogs along the trail. Like, clearly for a super green horse that doesn't have that experience, that is definitely spooking risk, but the fact that she has all those dogs, we were with 4 of her dogs, and that they'll just pop out in and out, weave across the trail, like, that's so good for the horses to get exposure to.
Especially in a place like Jackson, where if you're on public trails, you're gonna encounter off-leash dogs running out of nowhere. That's just the way it goes there.
Yes, there are a lot of off-leash dogs. It is not like what you see in Colorado, not as if I can speak to all of Colorado, but in at least the Denver metro area, clearly in the city of Denver, that's one thing. I don't spend almost any time other than in the tattoo studio in the city of Denver, but even where I am in places on much more on the outskirts and towards the mountains, it's still a lot more common for people to have their dogs on leashes. And I don't know if it's because the law is actually taken more seriously about off-leash dogs not being allowed or what, but there are pros and cons to that. Pros are, it's just like, oh, live, laugh, love, dogs off leash. Cons, it's like you have dogs running up to you and your dogs, and if you have a dog that's not interested in being beelined and rushed by a off-leash dog for a nose-to-nose greeting, that can feel pretty stressful and not cool, but I'm really proud of how my dogs did with that all week long, being just berated by off-leash dogs and owners that would sometimes be like, is it okay if they do an off-leash greeting? And we're like, no, thank you. And they're like, oh, well, my dog's already there.
Yeah.
So it is hilarious. Some people's like attempts, I guess, at just attempts at being like considerate and having manners, but they clearly weren't actually. It wasn't an actual offer of, oh, I can control my dog if you want that.
I felt such solidarity for like the two people that saw our dogs up ahead and clipped their dog onto a leash and walked past without doing unprompted greeting. I'm like, homie, you see me
Yeah.
and I see you.
Yeah, because I just don't let my dogs run up to other people and run up to other people's dogs for a multitude of reasons. But that is not the common Jackson practice.
We went fly fishing.
We went fly fishing, well, technically a couple of times. Really, Riley and I only were casting on one of the trips, and that was very fun. I will say, Riley and I did not catch fish, which I usually have great luck and fortune in Jackson, and I do usually catch fish, but the fishing was a little slower. However, the vibes were great, and instead I caught a snake and a frog, not with my fly rod, just with my hands.
My gosh.
Can you imagine cast and catch a snake?
Frog on.
Yeah. But that was still so fun, and our dad really loves and appreciates doing stuff like that with us, and we love it too.
Yeah, that was really fun. And the little snake we saw swimming in the water with its little head held up, and like, how do you do that, little guy? They're so cool how they are able to just move their body, keeping their head up out of the water. And we saw a couple of different frogs. I caught a little baby frog that was really cute and tiny. And yeah, the fishing, we don't have to make any stipulations because fishermen that go all the time that are super into it often don't catch. But I will additionally add that our dad was like, yeah, the fishing is so blown out right now because they are draining one of the lakes and sending so much water downstream because of old water rights that would be interesting to learn more about and get into, because it was definitely a bit of a mind-boggling situation for me to see the river running like as high as it runs for a peak runoff season when there was no snowpack this year, and that was a huge problem in the West, was lack of rain, lack of snow. And so I just wasn't expecting to see an extremely full blown out river, like as full as I've seen it. I was like, okay. And that's because they're draining one of the lakes 40 feet. Very weird. Water is such a concern everywhere, and it's definitely something that, whether you're super interested in learning about land and animal management or not, I think is worthwhile to look into and understand, because guess what? Water impacts everyone, and we should really be thoughtful and judicious about how we use water. It's a personal decision, but I would really encourage everyone to refrain from washing their cars. That's something that I've just noticed a lot recently, is the line for the car wash, and it just kind of gives me a pang in my heart to think of that fresh water just getting gallons and gallons dumped on your car. If you want to do it, maybe do a little bucket wash, a little sponge and one bucket of water, see what you can do with that to get it a little shiny, but 'tis but one example.
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many ways that we can be mindful about our water usage, and it is very important. I look around at my crispy grass. There is a lot of grass around me. There's also a lot of weeds. And yeah, even just seeing when you see a sprinkler that's just targeting the sidewalk or the road, I'm like, Oh, goodness gracious. Why? Like, that is something that is so worth paying attention to. And
Mm-hmm.
also the time of day that you're watering, whether it's your garden or sprinklers in your yard, matters so much. Um, but anyhow, we had such a lovely time, like Riley said, outside and in the water, which felt so good. And we also had a nice time in town. We got to visit a couple of our favorite cafes and got some great coffee, great pastries. There are a couple of cafes in Jackson that at this point are pretty well known, like Persephone, for example. I feel like that is kind of got blown up on the internet, and Riley and I lore back in the day, one of our first jobs we ever had that was signed, sealed, delivered official job was setting up and running the farmers market booth for Persephone. Riley and I did it together and would go early in the morning with our dad with his truck and fill it up with the tent and all of the bread and all of the tables and everything and get that set up. And that was fun for us to get to go to the farmers market. Jackson has my favorite farmers market, I think, because it's my farmers market that I grew up with. That's just so sentimental to me around our town square, and we're lucky because there are so many legit farmers and bakers and like just artisans bringing products that I know that exists all over. I have also um there's a lot more farmers markets in the radius of the Denver metro area than in the radius of our hometown of Jackson. But a couple of the markets that I've gone to here have been a little bit, it's like, I don't think the stands are vetted the way they are in Jackson for genuinely homegrown, like you are bringing what you have contributed as your family farm or, whatever artisanal thing it is that you do. I think I shared about it on the pod a couple of years back when I was like, oh, there were stickers all over this produce. That was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And that happened to me the first farmers market I went to in Colorado. So I'd like to learn more about that because I feel like when you're at a farmers market, you're under the impression this is a homegrown on my farm product. And I was blown away in particular by one stand where they just had such a variety of jams, chutneys, cheeses, milk products, just the amount of work
Oh,
that goes
so
into
good.
processing food. I know a little bit of what that's like, so to see how much that they're doing, farmers just work so hard and it is well worth what you dish out to receive. In fact, this morning I had some delicious tomato chutney smeared on my sourdough from that, and I was like, oh no, I bought that for us to share, Quinny, but it ended up just in my purse and I never saw it. I never thought of it again. And when I was unloading my bag, I was like, oh my gosh, well, great. What
Happy
a,
surprise.
yeah, pleasant addition to my breakfast. That was so delish. And I always love the classic Mexican treat of just the cup of mango, a deliciously ripe mango with a little bit of chamoy, or maybe ours just had tahini on it. Just a
Ours was
fresh
just plain mango this time because our
plain.
brother did not put anything on it.
Well,
But
it was delish in any
yeah.
case.
And I liked this year they had a stand full of donuts.
Wowie.
Very nicely
Many
handmade donuts.
donuts.
Lots of flavors. I do like donuts.
Shout out to the lime pistachio donut in particular for me. Thought that was creative and I loved the texture of the pistachios going on there.
I also loved the coconut, but I'm a coconut girl, and that the shredded coconut was also a really good texture. However it got baked, it worked very well. Um,
And one other part that was so fun that we actually ended up tacking on an additional day to our stay to be able to watch was a community theater production. Our local theater group has always done a free, or always for a long time has done a free Shakespeare in the Park event where they have a lawn area that you can come, set up your picnic, set up your chairs. It's donation based, and they put on a show. This year it was Something Rotten, which was a show that I was unfamiliar with and ended up being so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, thank God it's like Shakespeare related and not a Shakespeare play, because um not that there's anything wrong with Shakespeare, but for your average Joe like myself, sometimes you're a little bit like, oh yes, but not really. Whereas with this, I am following, and it's hilarious. They did such a good job. It's so fun to have people in the community that just are willing to dedicate their time and energy to rehearsals and performances for something that I imagine they're not getting paid for, because they're not charging a ticket price for it. I think it's just community theater for the love of it.
yeah, they did such a good job. It was so funny. I Both of our husbands, I mean, particularly Riley's husband, Braden, can appreciate theater. He did a couple years in our high school play. Sean has never done anything like that involved in the arts in that way.
He has
But
such an expressive face, though. He would be good
yeah,
at it.
he would be good. If he learned about it, he would be good because he is funny in those ways, particularly. Like you said, his face. That could read from a ways back, like
Yeah.
his dark eyebrows and how bright his eyes are. But that was a show that I came home and told Sean, like, oh, I'm actually bummed that you missed this, because I did my best I could trying to recap it to him, but obviously a recapitulation is not very funny. It's like, I can recap what happened. It's really, I'm kind
You
of
had to be
taking
there.
the humor out of it pretty much. Like Riley, the character that what it wasn't a priest. What was he?
He was the Puritan pastor.
Yeah, he was so funny that I was like, Sean, I just cannot explain this to you, but hear me when I say that we were laughing out loud so hard. And one of our friends was William Shakespeare in the play, and he had a very almost Austin Powers-esque
Yes.
accent that was really working for him, and there was a lot of tap involved, and they nailed it. I'm like, good for you guys that, there was not but a mistake with the tapping. When you do mess up in tap, and that's a big part of what is happening, it can be pretty easy to hear when something like that is off rhythm or a mistake is made. Like, good for you guys getting that locked in. And yeah, Something Rotten was probably one of my favorite plays I've ever seen, because I
Yeah.
understood it, like you're saying, and it was so funny.
It was funny, and it was like,
And they were making
it
fun
was-
of musicals.
Yes, it was a
when
musical.
it was a musical.
Making fun of musicals, which I love a musical, and also you know that they're inherently a bit ridiculous, and this really played into that. And also, so cool that they had live music. There were musicians that were playing off to the side, so you can watch them work, and it's just I love art, and the performing arts are such a great way to bring people together, which we also went to another show. So lucky while we were back home, up at the top of Snow King, our little local ski hill that we grew up on, because it's right in town and has great skiing as well, just a lot smaller in terms of how many runs and options there are. But they recently started doing shows up at the summit, so it's a beautiful, beautiful venue, a view really unmatched by most anywhere. There are cool venues out there. Red Rocks is awesome. There's lots of beautiful places to see music, but getting to be up with a view of the Tetons, a view of the valley, you see the Flat Creek and the river running through, the other buttes. It was like sunset. I mean, we got golden hour and then sunset. It's pretty outstanding.
Yeah, big time. It's so, and the artists who go and perform there are like, this is amazing, because I'm so glad this is the only way they should do it, but I'm so glad that they have the stage, like the platform for the stage has a tent over it, but it's not, the walls aren't closed in, so they get the view straight back through to the Tetons and all of the surrounding mountains. It is just epic. It's so beautiful. And yeah, we saw Paul Cauthen there, which Riley was so excited, and I was too. I don't listen to him as much, but he was a great performer, and it's so fun to get to see just things like that too, where I love that that's outdoors. Both of these musical and theater productions we got to see were outside, where you're not like having to step inside in Jackson, Wyoming in the summer, when you're like, I don't want to miss an evening outside, especially the evening there eventually actually cools off a bit and it gets so beautiful, and the golden hour there is so beautiful, gnarly, it is insane. I don't want to spend a couple of nights while we're there just fully inside. So
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like this year, I don't know what their schedule and what their plan is. I'm like, if the globe must be warming, you might as well take advantage of that and put on more shows, because my guess is that it's going to stay warmer into early fall than is usual.
Yeah, it was warm when we were up there. Of course, you're up on the summit of a mountain. I planned accordingly, bringing layers and whatnot, but I never even needed a long sleeve because it just stayed warm into we left past 10 o'clock, which, yeah, Quinn and we were out after bedtime, you guys. We were really shaking the bag.
Pretty
In
much
fact,
every night the whole trip.
I was gonna say, in fact, we were underslept consistently, but sometimes you...
And we still got up for our gym workouts with our dad, which was so fun.
That was so much fun. If you guys follow us on Instagram, you saw our little mirror selfie, but that was so fun to see Dad at the gym and meet a couple of his gym buddies that he sees. And I mean, we just had a great time. I will give a quick shout out to my father-in-law, who made an absolute feast for us. We wanted to get the families together and have a little barbecue, just hang on a summer evening. That's something that is just a tradition in our family, is getting people over to the house and eating outside, hanging out on the lawn, playing cornhole, catching up with buddies, and it's always a good time. But my father-in-law was like, okay, yeah, don't worry, I'll bring tacos. And you think, okay, like, taco bar. No. He fully shut that place down. He showed up laden with food. There were so many options. Chicken tacos, but not just like, Quinn and I were saying, a lot of the times a chicken taco, you're kind of like, yeah, okay. No, actually so dank delish. Tender.
And flavorful.
Steak. an absolutely delicious sweet potato black bean situation, elote street corn style. I mean, the list goes on. We had a spread, and then other friends brought little margarita stuff. We had cookies and brownies. It was
Cookies.
a good time had by all.
You know that my dad was supplying the gummies.
Yes, and
Gummies on supply, and the dogs were angels. My perfect little dogs. I felt so proud because we did have one of those barbecues last year, and I mean, Bunny did great, but he was not even 6 months old. I think he was 4.5 months old or something. At that point, it definitely was a lot more work on me and Riley's part last year for being just constantly monitoring and on top. He was on leash the whole time. But this time, I mean, Pinkerton, mwah, excellent, perfection. And Bunny
but
was
still pretty,
dang near
even
close.
with her age, impressive when we just living our lives out here, we don't really have occasion getting a bunch of people together. I think it's different when you have a family and kids are coming in and out or whatever. They're not used to being around a bunch of strangers at a party all at once.
Yeah, let alone, like you said, kids, which now Riley's little sister-in-laws are older and they're like almost teen age, and so it's different, but still my dogs are not used to young people.
And they were like
like
cartwheeling
that.
and doing handstands in
Yeah.
the yard. It's exciting stuff. Even our full grown dog Fletcher, for the longest time, if you ever got down to get a push up, would come and get in your face because it's just a little different. But I was so impressed by them.
So proud. I'm so proud of them and so grateful, and it's so exciting when you are a animal person who really cares about the training aspect of things, and that's something you prioritize. Like you just have to know in yourself what the behind the scenes look like and give yourself that pat on the back, because clearly most people don't see the 99% of the time behind the scenes, all the repetitions, all of the training. And then when you're out and about in a public space and getting compliments on them, it feels amazing, and I take that in and I'm so grateful. And it's like I had a couple of comments of people that they were like, yeah, I wish my dogs were like that. And I'm like, yeah, it does not happen by wishing, unfortunately. It happens by being extremely consistent with them, even in the times that you wish you could be a little more chill and lax. But
Yeah.
I'm stoked and proud of it, and so for me it's so well worth it to have my dogs be functional space sharers like that, where I can be like, I have some peace of mind that my dog is not going to jump up on the counter and grab the steak like Pinkerton did when she was a little baby and she did not have eyes on her. But she's never done something like that again.
One last detail, because I know you guys are little horse girls out there. Would you like to share about our Rock Springs drive pullover?
Yeah, that was so fun. Riley and I driving through Rock Springs. Well, there had been plans about a month ago. The plan was that maybe we would be bringing home a Mustang, an untouched wild horse from the Rock Springs adoption facility. But then I changed my mind about what I'm looking for to train for a horse for my Mexico to Canada trip. And so that was no longer on the table, but we stopped by their viewing area and got to check out their horses in the holding pens. And there are so many beautiful Mustangs out there, and there were so many sweet foals, and we got to see one foal get the zoomies across the pen, and then a couple of foals were like wrestling with each other, so cute. And Riley and I so many times on this trip were like, the fact we didn't bring binoculars, dumb, stupid, we need to learn our lesson. We could have used them so many times this trip. We should just stay strapped in our chest, in the chest mount binos, because life is too precious to not get to see it up close. But that was really fun and made me feel like, yep, I'll be back. I'll be back one day for one of you.
Yeah, I could have been happy with any number of those horses. They were so beautiful. And we saw the burrows, but they blended too well to the landscape. We really needed our binoculars. I'm like, I can see that you're there, but I can't really see you.
I can see long ears, but I can't make out your body too well. We have to do one shout out, though, that at the concert we were at, we got stopped in the crowd to say, Quinn and Riley, I have to tell you that I am a huge Q&R Code fan and listener, and that was so awesome. And she said, I especially love when you shout out Jackson and talk about our hometown. So, Hannah, this episode is for you. We appreciate being pulled and being told that you like our podcast. That means so much to us. And it's especially the best when it's from a in-person baddie that you're like, yes, you are who we want to be listening. So thank you.
That was so nice. Our people and this whole episode, you'll get to relate to so much. And I hope that everyone gets the chance to, whether you have the opportunity to go to Jackson and have that specific experience is one thing, but Quinn and I are always wishing that you get to do something fun outside. You can do that wherever you are, ideally in the summertime heat. We're hoping that you find a little body of water that you can splish and splash around in.
Big time. We will talk to you next Tuesday. Thank you for listening. Please follow us on Instagram at the Q&R Code, Quinn Liliestrom and Riley Liliestrom. Shout out to Tattoo by Quinn if you're interested in looking at my artwork. And please like and follow us. YouTube, we appreciate if you watch our videos. We appreciate for you to give it a like and subscribe. We are just trying to spread the good word about our podcast to like-minded people, and or even maybe you're not like-minded and you just want to dip your foot in, see how this type of talk and lifestyle feels for you.
Yeah, we welcome all, like-minded or not, as long as you keep it kind.
Yeah, and we will talk to you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.